Hello, chess family. It's me, National Master Jesse James, and today we're doing 400 to 600 for forks or double attacks. That's right. Let's see if we can go ahead and figure out as many as we can in around 10 minutes or so. And, well, whenever you're looking to problem solve in these games, go ahead and look for the force moves, which are checks, captures, and threats. Some good things you should look at, particularly for forks, is going to be unprotected pieces. In this one, we're definitely going to see it's an unprotected rook over here on e4. So, well, let's go and take a look for it. What is the move here? I think the move here is going to be rook takes on f8, check. Notice that the king had to take here. If the queen takes, well, then it's going to be a different variation right there. But I believe we should be okay with, let's see, after queen takes on f8, we play queen to g6 check, attacking the king and the rook over here. But because the king takes over here, the same kind of concept is here. The rook is unprotected, so what do you play? Use your queen to attack the king and the rook. So we play queen f5 check, and then we take. All right, guys, let's go on to the next one. Here we go. I like to call this the elementary fork because I see this played in a lot of elementary chess games, mainly because, well, your opponents are just not castling. And here we see the knight can get a royal fork or a family fork over here. It's white to move. What do you play here? Simple chess. Here we get to play knight takes on c7 check, and here it's called a royal fork or a family fork. A royal fork is going to be forking the royalty, which is the king and the queen, but I would think the proper name is going to be the family fork because not only is it attacking the queen, it's also attacking the rook. Remember, guys, always take the piece that is worth the most, at least whenever you're just going pawn grabbing or just trying to grab as much material as possible. So knight takes on d5. All right, let's the next one over here. Let's see. Oh, okay, this is a cool one. So here we see that the king and queen would love to be forked with the knight. But, well, we're having our own problems over here. We see that the rook is trying to take the queen here too. And, well, the queen is actually having a hard time trying to find a square here. But the main idea is we want to play the knight to d2 check to fork the king and the queen. Do you see it now? Here, remember, always look for those force moves. Believe it or not, we're going to play queen takes on d1 check. The bishop takes, and we do this so it's a clearance sacrifice and also remove the defender's idea. So now we can play knight to d2 check. Now the king must move over and knight takes f3 check. So we won the exchange, meaning a bishop or a knight for the rook, but then also we just win a free piece here with the knight fork. Remember, the two best pieces in chess for forking is going to be that queen and the knight. They're very good about controlling lots of squares. I think the knight is definitely the best piece in chess for the fork, though. All right, on to the next one. Another simple one right here. Remember, when you're looking for forks, another key idea that you should be looking for is the unprotected piece. In this case, we have two of them, which is the knights right over here. And, well, did you find it yet? Here's simple chess. Here we see we also have a king that is vulnerable to checks. And remember, you're always looking for those checking moves, so hopefully you see it now. It's going to be queen to c4 check. The king will move, and then queen takes knight here on c5. All right, on to the next one. Here we go. Gotcha. Remember, these are pretty easy ones here. A lot of these ones are just simply fighting the forks. Once we get to higher levels, you have to actually force the forks into happening. Here, well, it's just simple chess. What's the move here? Here we get to play knight takes on a2 check. This is going to be forking the king and the bishop right here. And, well, if we don't take, we're just going to be losing because the knight is going to be trapped over here. So knight takes on c3. And, yep, we're just won an extra pawn right there. All right, on to the next one. Awesome. Here we see another, I won't call it the elementary fork, I'll just call it a regular fork here because the king did castle. But here, we're going to win at least the exchange, if not an extra piece here. Black to move, what do you play? All right, here we go. We're going to play knight to e2 check here, forking the king and the rook. And this is a really cool idea. When the knight takes on c1, it actually defended the rook that was on d3. So whenever they do take on d3, well, we just get to take back. So now we're just going to be up an extra piece. Bishop takes, didn't really mean anything. Let's just go in and capture back. And, yeah, we're just up that extra piece. All right, on to the next one. Queen takes on d5. And here, again, we get that royal fork. Here we get that elementary fork. It's white to move. What do you play? Remember, if you have these kind of positions, you should be looking at your knight or your queen first. These are the best pieces to fork with. And here we get to play knight to c7 check. And after king d7, knight takes on d5. Man, we're running through these ones. They got to make them a little bit harder. All right, here another nice fork here. I will say a lot of people will be missing knight forks, at least at the beginning of their chess games. After a while, you do get used to it, although at any level, Anybody can fall for a knight fork. It's white's move. Did you figure it out? Here we get to do a royal fork with knight to g6 check, attacking the king and the queen. And of course, we're going to take that queen right there. We're already on 8 with plenty of time on the clock. Again, remember, we're looking for forced moves. We're looking for the checks. In this one, we see it's the unprotected knight. And here, well, we actually don't have a fork against it just yet. We're going to have to force the king to a vulnerable square. And here the idea is, well, we want to go ahead and force the king to h2. Why do we want to go to h2? Because right now there's no way to attack the knight and the king at the same time. So when we force the king to h2, that's when we actually have the check here. So first things first, let's force the king to h2. What do you play? Here we play queen to d1 check. Now that the king is forced to h2, now you look for the fork to attack the knight and the king. Do you see it? Simple chess. Here we're going to play on the dark squares and play queen to d6 check, attacking the king and the knight. And of course, we're going to take here, and this just works out perfectly. As you see, it's actually defending the knight here, and well, the king is nice and safe tucked in behind him. All right, on to the next one. Ooh, a nice one here. This one is another royal fork, but also goes with the idea of a pin tactic. If you don't know already, a pin tactic is whenever you attack a piece and the piece cannot take because, well, this is an absolute pin. You absolutely cannot take because you put yourself in the check. The other pin that we have is called the relative pin, and that's whenever there's a piece that you could move, but the piece behind it will be captured. Did you find it yet? Here we get that royal fork with knight to d4 check, and this is an absolute pin because the pawn can absolutely not take because then the rook would take the king. So here, knight d4 check, king moves over, and knight takes e2, and now we just won that queen. Well, let's go ahead and do a few more minutes. We still have 6 minutes on the clock, so we'll do maybe we'll go to 15 over here. All right, the knight went to g5, and where is the fork over here? I must say I don't see a fork, but I do see a free piece here. Oh, we do have to be careful here because right now they are threatening knight to e6 check. So we want to win the piece, but we also need to stop this idea. I almost played knight takes on d5 because knight to e6 check forking would win the queen with the royal fork. So now that you know the idea, you can still win the piece, but then stop their plan. Do you see it yet? Hopefully you do. Here we're going to play bishop takes on d5. And notice, yes, they can play knight e6 check, but now the bishop can just take. All right, on to the next one. Ooh, okay. I can already tell you this is about losing the rook right here. And here, the fork is not immediately there, so we're going to make them walk into it. We're going to force them into the fork. Remember, a good chess player, at least if you're playing against one, will never walk into a fork by themselves. You're going to have to force them into it. And this is definitely the case that's going to happen right now. So first we start off with queen takes on g6 check, and now the king goes to d8. It didn't really matter where the king went to. Because of this unprotected rook, anywhere it moved to, it was going to get forked. For instance, if the king had gone to d7, if it had gone to e7, we would have gone queen g7 check, forking the rook and the king. But here, when the king goes to d8, well, hopefully you see it. Where do you move to fork the king and the rook? Simple chess. We're going to play queen to f6 check, and then queen takes on h8. Nice. All right, we still got a few more right here. This is not really a fork so much as a checkmate. Black to move. What do you play? Hopefully you know how to do the king and rook checkmate. Here, the kings are opposite of each other, and now all we need to do is bring in that rook as the king takes away all the flight squares in front. So now we just got to get the flight squares to the side. So here it's simply rook h8 check, and then rook takes on h6 for mate. I'm not too sure why they call that a fork, but yeah, it's a good tactic nonetheless. All right, what's the next one here? The next one here, same kind of idea. Here, an unprotected rook. And, well, it's going to take a few checks to get there, but we're going to force the check so we can get that queen to check. Basically, what we're doing is trying to get the queen here to check to attack the king and the rook, which you're saying, hey, there's a knight in the way. Remember, you have to force this position. So what's the first move here? Hopefully you see it. Remember, always look for those forced moves. Queen takes on h5 check. Here, the knight is forced to block, and now do you see it? Now, after this move, the knight was forced to go to h6. Now we go queen e8 check. The king moves or the knight goes back. It doesn't really matter. Queen takes on d7 here, winning that rook. On to the next one. Let's see what it is. Let's see here. Uh-oh. Got a little freeze right there. I don't know why, but sometimes that does happen on chess.com. Let's see here. Let's see. Queen takes h5 check. Check and takes. Oh, there we go. And this is going to be our last one right here. What is this one right here? Ah, another fork. And this one takes into the idea of the pin tactic. Do you see it? That one did take me a quick second. But here I was able to find it. Hopefully you did too. Here we get to play knight to b4 check. Again, the pawn could not take because the queen was pinning it to the king. And, well, the king goes to b3. And now simple chess, we just go ahead and take. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this. Remember, this was 400 to 600 for forks or double attacks in chess. We'll see you in the next video.